Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Office. Woody Woodruff here, taking off my earpiece from the 6 o'clock show.
Yes.
You know why I'm doing this? Because one of our stagehands wants me to do it. I told him to get bent, but he didn't want to. Anyway, here we go. Tonight on the Sports Office, this episode is brought to you by Figer Law. All we do is win. All right, guys, let's get into a very big day. I've got Rich Luderman, Weather Authority. I've got sports producer James Paxton, Cat 5 in the house. I've got Tommy Carr over here. He's going to bring in all of our Zoom guests. Hit the QR code. You see it right here at the bottom of the screen over here, and the Zoom room number if you want to go that way. Now, we're starting this conversation off by talking about the Tigers, and for that, we are bringing in our special guest for today. It is Dan Dickerson. Let's bring in Dan. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How you doing? Good to see you guys.
Doing fantastic, Dan. Thanks a lot for coming into the Zoom room and the Sports Office. And let's get started because
Dan
we
Dickerson
have seen.
with us.
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's amazing.
I'm honored. He's like an Ernie Harwell for my generation. I don't know if he's okay with me saying that.
Are you okay with that, Dan? You okay with that?
Heck yeah, I'll take that all day.
I mean, I've been listening to Dan Dickerson my entire life, and my first job in media.
So you're the one.
Oh.
Just kidding, Dan. Just kidding.
That was me.
Come on, we're playing here. We're playing, right? But anyway, continue, James.
Well, my first ever job, like in media, in an internship, was to board operate 4 Tigers games. And it was just so cool to listen to them. And I have so many calls. Like I think of like Dan Miller, who's now my boss, and Dickerson. It's just 2 unbelievable broadcasters. So it really is a pleasure to have you on the show today. I'm gonna keep gushing about it.
Wow.
All right, anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting all kinds of different instructions. But anyway, let's get into what we want to talk about tonight. And that is the Detroit Tigers, okay? And the Tigers, Dan, making huge moves. The one today coming down, the arbitration result for Tarik Skubal. How do you fall on that? 19 million versus 32. The arbitrators have spoken. It's 32.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really was a pretty complicated case. It really was. There really hadn't been one like it. I thought Chris McCoskey of the News wrote a really good piece, kind of explaining the context and why it was complicated. But I think what it came down to, the Tigers were not trying to lowball Tarik Skubal. They made an offer, and the normal process is the agent then counters. That never happened until the file date. So why try to outbid yourself? You probably could have settled on a number somewhere between 19 and 32, but they just decided that apparently they didn't want to do that, talking about the other side. So, hey, the Tigers knew they probably weren't going to win that one because of that, but it was a really unusual case on many fronts. A lot of detail to it, but in the end, I think he wasn't surprised that he got 32. I think he's certainly worth it, and I don't think it's going to affect anything in terms of his performance, his relationship with the team, anything like that.
Now, what about moving forward? Is this still a situation where the Tigers might, think about dealing, or is this the first step in the all-in sense that this team needs to have this year?
It's so funny. I immediately took it as this is the Tigers going all in. And remember, they can still sign him after the season if they don't get something done during the season. That's still a possibility. I know nobody thinks that's true, but it is a possibility. But anyway, that's how I took it. I've heard from a lot of people who said, man, everything I'm reading is this means you're going to trade Tarik Skubal. My gut says, even though you're going to pay 2 pitchers, $70 million this year, I still think this is the Tigers going all in. And what do I mean by that? You win in the postseason with pitching and defense. It's run prevention. The Dodgers won the World Series because their offense wasn't great in the postseason. It's a great lineup, but because they had the pitching. And that's, to me, how I look at this. You have just increased your chances of winning a short series when you can roll out Tarik Skubal and Framber Valdez 3, maybe 4 times in a 7-game series. And it just... Going into it, you're going to feel a whole lot different than if you didn't have Framber Valdez. So that's how I look at it. I may be completely wrong, but I just can't picture trading Tarik Skubal after this.
Chime in, James.
Well, it's funny because doing all the research today, now the Tigers have 3 pitchers who were top 20 in strikeouts last year.
Yep.
Flaherty was 19, Valdez was 20, and Skubal's number 2. And Dan, for people who don't really know a lot about Valdez, Tigers fans, people in Detroit, kind of talk about what they're getting with Framber Valdez here.
They're getting a guy who is just, the ball's going to be on the ground. And you love a power pitcher who can keep the ball on the ground. He gets an average amount of swing and miss, but as you said, top 20, if you're near strikeout an inning, and he is, that's where you want to be as a starting pitcher. But it's a 60% ground ball rate right in that area. That's a ground ball guy. That means if there's hard contact, it's on the ground. In this day and age when the ball, let's face it, it's still flying, extra base hits are at a premium. I mean, that's what guys are trying for. Right. It's hard to get an extra base hit off of Framber Valdez. This is just a great addition, the consistency, and you're getting a guy who is just a solid number 2. You know what you're going to get most days.
Dan, I got a question. It's from the Luderman Lumber Company. I'm a big hitter, man, big hitter, and I want to know what the Tigers are planning, to add some offense or to add some, home run power this coming year.
That's a good question. I think what it kind of overlooked was the improvements the offense made. They jumped to over 750 runs. They've only been in that range 3 times in the last 15 years. They were a top 5 offense. I know how Scott Harris talked about it in his postseason kind of reflection on the season, and he started by talking about the hitting and how it went quiet at the end. But really, he wasn't talking about the whole month of September. Through 146 games, that's 90% of the season, this was a top 3 offense led by a core of 6 hitters who are all 27 years old or younger. So while it doesn't look like they've done anything, what they did do is bring Gleyber Torres back. He was a big piece of being a top 5 offense. And you can legitimately expect that core, I think you're going to get more from Parker Meadows. I think you're going to get something from Matt Vierling, both of whom really contributed very little last year because of injury. Mm-hmm. I think you add that to what they already have. Green, Torkelson, Carpenter with a thump. And I think Colt Keith has more in that bat in terms of extra base power. Wenzel Perez quietly had a very good year, and Dylan Dingler was terrific behind the plate. So it is a question that gets asked a lot. But if you've got a top 5, it's still about run prevention to me every time. If you've got a top 5 offense and your run prevention is top 5, you're going to have a team that has a real legit chance to get to the World Series.
And Dan, you talk about that the run scoring on this team, even with a guy like Riley Green who's striking out 200 times a year. I mean, so if he can maybe whittle that down a little bit, then this team has a chance to get even maybe into the top 3.
Yeah. They were top 3, as I said, right until the final 16 games of the regular season. And the other thing about Riley Green, and I know we hear about the strikeouts a lot. Hey, he doesn't want to strike out that much. Right. But at 24, you had a guy who hit 36 and drove in 111. When was the last time we saw a production like that from a guy not named Miguel Cabrera? That's a big deal to me. I think the walks go back up to a level that you need. You need him, right around 9-10%. That's above league average on walks. I think he'll trim the strikeouts, but I think he was, I don't know, you have to learn how to take your shot, right? And I think he was taking his shot a little bit more, maybe to the detriment of the swing and miss, but I think he kind of balances things out this year while retaining the power. I'm telling you, this kid's special.
I'm loving the Tigers and what they have up the middle as far as defense goes, starting with Dingler at the catching spot. But let's talk about the corners. Torkelson at first base. Is it still a question mark at third, or
no.
Is who gets penciled in there right now?
At third?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got, it's probably Colt Keith most days. Mm-hmm. I think Zach McKinstry probably at this point, just looking at the makeup, is probably at shortstop for the most part. I think Javi Baez is probably best used as more of a super utility type, and there's nothing wrong with that. The way he played center field last year.
Oh, boy.
I think that's kind of his role, limit the at-bats. He did fall off in the second half. So McKinstry kind of moves around, maybe gets the most starts at short. Keith, I think, gets the most starts at third. He can also play second and first. I think there'll be some rotation going on. And then I think the X factor is Kevin McGonigal. He is a shortstop by trade. I think that position is kind of wide open. You're a number 2 prospect in all of baseball. The good ones come quick. You know that, Woody.
Yeah, that is true.
And he's 21, and I'm telling you, consensus number 2 prospect in all of baseball. There is a real, to me, legit chance that he is on the opening day roster if he has a big spring. And if not, I think early in the year.
On the opening day roster? He'd have to have a huge spring, wouldn't he?
No, I don't think so. Because I don't know, you talk to people who've watched him, and he's got special bat to ball skills. He can hit a fastball. He can recognize pitches. He's got discipline. And the question is just, can he hold down shortstop? It feels like. But I've talked to a number of people who believe that the jump from AA to the major leagues for him, then that's what he'd be doing. It's not easy. It's not a thing that many can do, but they think that his skills are so special that he can do it.
You mentioned discipline. That might be the hardest aspect of becoming a major league player, going from a young guy to a veteran. Lots to happen. All right, this is good. Go ahead, James. Anything else you got? I love it.
It's funny. Like, of course, we want to talk about the Tigers and preview this season more, sir. But yesterday, the great Mickey Lolich passed away, and I wanted to know if you had any stories or you remember anything about him, because I know he was at the camps all the time. So I didn't know if you had a Mickey Lolich story for us.
Yeah, I didn't. I never really got to know him. I never went to the camps, and I did some of those, 35th, 40th, 50th anniversaries of the '68 championship team. My memories are just me as a kid, because the '68 team that's the team that got me hooked on baseball, right? Grew up in this area. I'm 9 years old, and they hooked me on baseball. And Mickey Lolich, forever in my heart, is the guy who brought us the World Series in '68. We will never see it again. 3 games, 3 complete games, 376 innings a few years later. He was incredible. And you just can't overstate the importance to the franchise in those years, late 60s into the early 70s. It's fun because we all know, I think, the 3 complete games in the World Series, and most know that the third one was on 2 days rest.
2 days rest, right. Against Bob Gibson,
I didn't realize that he made 2 more starts in the postseason in his career for the '72 Tigers. They added the American League Championship Series in '69, and so that was a best of 5. He pitched 2 more times. One was a 10-inning game. It was not a complete game for him. And then he had a 9-inning complete game. So he pitched 2 more times. In his career, he averaged over 9 innings a start in his 5 postseason starts. He was amazing. He was great, and he was an anchor in that rotation.
And power hitter in that World Series. He got that home run in Game 1. So.
Yeah, and he had 0 in his major league career and 800 at-bats.
Exactly, but he got that one against Nellie Briles, who he gave a lot of credit to for pitching to him, because I believe that was a 2-strike pitch that he hit out over the wall in St. Louis.
It was great here in the obit that Dan Miller read and we played yesterday, and Lolich was talking and telling the story about the home run, and he said, "I'm just so happy he pitched and hit my bat perfectly for me to get that ball over the fence."
Then he stopped at first base and said, they said, "Keep going, you hit it out."
That's too far. It was just such a great story to hear.
Yeah,
Dan, I have a question for you. Woody and I, we're more old school compared to James. What are the names? What are the people, the announcing names of your youth? And through the years as you were coming up through the major leagues, in a sense, what were the great names, the announcing names that you've admired and even got to work with?
Because I grew up in the Detroit area, it's Ernie Harwell first and foremost. With Paul Carey, I always like to mention him because he was Ernie's partner for 19 years. He had one of the great voices you will ever hear in broadcast history. Ray Lane was I love listening to him. He was Ernie's partner before Paul Carey. Van Patrick. I'm dating myself. So these are all kind of but there are some legends in there. Van Patrick called some baseball, but he was Lions football. George Blaha on basketball goes back a long way. Ray Lane called Pistons basketball. Bruce Martin on Red Wings radio. I mean, we had Hall of Famers across the board in all the sports. So those are the ones who kind of influence me. I don't think there's any question. You don't try to imitate them, but you take something away from each one in terms of, this is how you call a professional game, or college for that matter. And I did love listening. For a long time, I was commuting back and forth, Detroit to Grand Rapids. My now wife, Lori, and I were, living in different cities. So I would try to tune in. I always got a kick out of pulling in those 50,000 watt stations so I caught Bob Uecker from Milwaukee, from WTMJ. And I remember thinking, because all I had seen was Bob Uecker in Major League. And then I'm listening to him like, oh, this guy's really good. He's really good. I have to say, I like listening to, when I lived in West Michigan, that's Cubs territory, as I'm sure some of you guys know. And so I listened to a lot of Harry Carey calling WGN Cubs games in the afternoon, because they were always on in the afternoon. And that was... I wouldn't recommend imitating that style, but he was an entertaining listen.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
always enjoyed trying to pull in those signals from, the 50,000 watt Clear Channel stations. There's a station down in New Orleans that booms up here, and I would catch some Tulane football games. So it really was a passion to try to go down the dial, right, the days before satellite radio, and find those signals from around the country.
Real quick before we got to go to our first break, who's better, you or Jason Benetti?
Who's better? Jason Benetti's, he's the guy. We're two different broadcasters. I love Jason. He has been such a great addition to and it really is. It's a broadcast team that we've really built radio and television, and he's just terrific. We're very different broadcasters. We love talking about it. We both bring the same thing, though, to the broadcast: passion for what we do.
Yes.
And I just think he's the best.
All right, Dan, I got to squeeze in a quick break. Will you join us on the other side?
Sure, why not?
Thank you, my friend. We'll be right back with the Sports Office. Welcome back to the Sports Office. Woody Woodruff in the captain's chair, running things tonight, talking about all things Tigers with Rich Luderman, James Paxton, and Dan Dickerson, voice of the Tigers. Dan, welcome back. Before the break, we were chatting about Skubal and Framber Valdez and all that kind of stuff. But right now, I want to talk about the way this team is being built for this season. And I'm seeing, a lot of starting pitching getting loaded up on. Maybe some of the bullpen guys that you saw in years past are getting shifted out in favor of more starters, because it seems that that's the way Hinch likes to play it. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think they definitely wanted to make sure that the starting pitching depth, they had to build it up. There's no question. That's why I was talking heck, I had a Tigers talk show last night, and I was speculating they would add another starter. The name Framber Valdez did not come up on my short list of guys.
It came up on no one's list. That was a surprise. That reminded me of one of those Mike Ilitch deals where all of a sudden Mike comes out and says, yeah, we got Framber.
That's right. It did remind you of that.
It did.
It felt like
but anyway, continue.
No, so I just felt like they want to build as much depth as possible. Drew Anderson was added. I'm intrigued by that arm, but now it looks like he might go to the bullpen. But the guys you had, you got Skubal, Mize, Flaherty, Olson. I love Troy Melton in this rotation. I firmly believe, even with this signing, that he's going to find a spot. But you have to guard against an injury to Reese Olson, because I think he's having a tough time staying healthy. Who knows? Maybe he's a guy that, because of the injuries, they decide maybe with that stuff and that frame, maybe leading to injuries, maybe he's better as a guy that you can have as a real weapon coming out of the bullpen. I don't know. But I would say right now he's certainly going to be in the rotation. But I think you're guarding against some problems, injury issues, because there's always going to be injury issues. And they have a really, to me, rock solid top 6, 7. And again, I think Troy Melton's a guy to keep an eye on, but you had to build the back end of the bullpen as well. AJ didn't really have reliable arms at the back end other than Will Vest. Tyler Holton, to me, is a guy he wants to use from the first inning to the 9th inning, and has, right, the last 3 years.
Exactly.
Now I think you can get back to doing that and not having to rely on him at the back end with Vest. Finnegan's a great re-sign, and then Kenley Jansen can still get people out, man. He had a big finish last year. That's really nice. Add Cater Montero to that mix. I know he's a starter. They say he's going to go into spring as a starter. He was phenomenal coming out of the bullpen in the postseason. That was 97, 98 with wicked spin to go with it. Now you've got, and how calm was that kid in the most high-pressure situations in the postseason. So to me, now you've got 4 guys, if that's the case. And right now, he would certainly appear to be a good candidate to go to the bullpen. You're really building something special. That I'm intrigued by the Drew Anderson, because it's a big arm. I'm intrigued by his arm, and if that's another guy in the bullpen, you're building now a heck of a rotation, 6, 7 deep easily at this point, and you're building a bullpen that's got some terrific depth and you've got some electric arms.
I'm getting a visual picture of A.J. Hinch and Chris Fetter in a lab working with chemicals and trying to put all this together.
They love it.
Go ahead, James.
We got a couple minutes left with Tigers radio broadcaster Dan Dickerson. The Dodgers have been a big topic. Are they good for baseball? Are they bad for baseball? Would they unfortunately kind of be a reason we go into a strike in a couple years? But what's kind of your take on the LA Dodgers, who now it seems like they just have more money than anybody and they're able to grab anyone? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just baseball?
Well, like Hal Steinbrenner, I'm concerned. Well, I love that. That was my favorite quote of the whole offseason.
I'm concerned, yes. And rightly so.
No, please, Hal, please. No, I mean, this has been a problem for a long time. It's just that the dollar amounts have gotten so big. But if you go back 30 years, there was quite a disparity between the top and the bottom in terms of payroll, if you want to talk percentages. But now the dollar amounts are pretty staggering in terms of the differences. But to me, I don't know. It's very much about, is it because they're winning? Because the Mets still might have a bigger payroll than the Dodgers this year. Nobody seems to be complaining about them.
Dan,
because
I'm going to tell you right now.
Season last year.
I'm going to tell you right now. It's because they're winning. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Right? It's because the Dodgers are winning. If they were losing, we would have no issue with this, and we wouldn't hear it. We wouldn't care about all the money that's going on.
The Mets are a perfect example of that.
Exactly right. The Mets are a perfect example.
Nobody cares about the Mets' $330 million payroll because they won 83 games last year. I do understand it. I do understand that there is that perception, and I get it. And it's, yes, it feels like there's an unfairness to it. I do believe the playing field has to be level, but that to me is an owner issue where they have to but have to probably have a little more aggressive in terms of the revenue sharing.
The only thing unfair is the fact that I don't have more time to spend with you. Thanks a lot, Dan Dickerson, for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Dickerson tonight in the sports office. See him this summer down at the ball game. Listen to him for Tiger Baseball. Thanks, Dan. There'll be more of the sports office after this break.
Great job.
Welcome back to the Sports Office. Hey, look, we're going to give you a little bit of a teaser for tomorrow, okay? With the Super Bowl coming, we are going all in with the football coverage, and we're going to bring in six-time Super Bowl appearing player Mike Lodich, the
two-time champion.
Two-time champ. He's going to be here tomorrow on the Sports Office, and we're going to look for you to be here tomorrow as well. I'm Woody. That's Rich. That's James. We'll look for you again on Friday. Bye.